Hello, I'm Justine Willis Toms. Welcome to the New Dimensions Cafe. Today I'm hosting Michael Cepress, a multidisciplinary artist celebrated for his dynamic creativity. He's a musician, storyteller, poet, craftsman, designer, and cultural curator. In addition to his musical talents, he has excelled in textile arts and fashion design, with exhibitions of his work showcased internationally. I'm speaking with Michael at his home by remote connection. Michael, welcome to the New Dimensions Cafe.
Thank you so much, Justine. I'm thrilled to be here.
I am thrilled to have you. I know your work is recognized for excellence on many disciplines, so setting you apart from those who tend to focus on just a single area of artistic expression. What inspires you to pursue such a multiplicity of creative artistic pursuits?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I've never felt that it was my job to decide as an artist how my ideas come to light. I'm almost listening to the call and then responding either as a song or as a clothing design. And it's kind of integral to I guess, my own unique way of being creative that I wait to see what material seems best for whichever idea it is that I'm wanting to bring out into the world.
I know that you have spoken about how you set up your life intentionally to be creative.
Yeah, it took me a while to figure this out for myself, but I realized that if I wanted to be able to truly let my creativity flow naturally every single day, I needed to arrange my space and set up my life physically, set up my physical life to be as obstacle free as possible. So, like you can see here, my studio is just over this way. Um, and for me, it's about making sure that the tools I use to make my art are always within an arm's reach. So that if I am in the studio, for instance, working with fabric, cutting and sewing a garment, and a song lyric comes to mind, for instance, I have an opportunity to immediately write that down because they're often very fleeting, to immediately write down that idea and step away and grab the guitar and, give a little time to whatever the kind of creative muse is that's dancing around me that day. So, like I said, it took me a while to figure out that that was so important. But I think for a lot of folks who are creative, the space they live and work in isn't always set up in a way that allows that kind of spontaneous and immediate action on their ideas. And so for me, I've made a point of really doing my best to capitalize on that. So we have sewing machine, all the instruments are around, the fabrics are, it's kind of all in the world here.
You said inspiration can be fleeting. Oh, that really kind of popped out at me in what you just said.
It's amazing how fleeting it can be, especially for me with musical ideas or song lyrics. It's almost, I mean, this may be a little far out for some folks, but it's almost as if they're floating through the air and they sort of land on me and I can either grab them or let them go. And if I choose not to grab them and get them down, it's really a matter of very short time that I feel that they float away. And after they were gone, in many cases, I couldn't even remember what they are. Like, so it feels there's this sense of urgency around it that I often feel, especially with songwriting, where it's like, oh, here it is. I better grab it real quick, otherwise it's going to be gone. And I've actually heard interviews with other musicians who say they have a similar experience. Um, and I don't know where those ideas go if it's not me that grabs them. Do they float through the air and land on another tap on the shoulder of another musician saying, do you want this one?
I love it.
And I also think that there's an opportunity for artists or for all of us to initiate that ourselves too. I think one way might be to just sort of live your life and see what comes to you, in terms of creativity, see what comes to you. But I think there's another way, and this is where it might be closer to work, really doing the work of an artist, where every day you have to get the ball rolling. You have to sort of poke at it a little bit, or just make the move somehow to start to stir that creative energy, and then see what comes. And I find that more times than not, once I've made the first move, whether it be sitting down with my guitar at the piano and just starting to play with no real agenda, just starting to play and see what comes, or opening up the sketchbook and just starting to draw and see what ideas come, but making that initiative as the artist to it's almost like it opens the door, really opens the door for the creativity to begin.
This brings up the question of how we can earn a living as an artist.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's something myself and so many artists are constantly grappling with, because a lot of times what brings us the most artistic satisfaction and the most fulfillment isn't necessarily the thing that will pay the bills, um, or the timing of those things isn't always in sync in the way that you want them to be. So I remember one of the things I do to earn a living is I work as a tailor in professional theater, making costumes for large scale professional theater productions, working with Broadway tours or big concert tours that come through Seattle. And it's wonderful work. And it allows me to use my craft and my skill as a designer and as a craftsman with cloth, but really not with my own creative agenda in mind, but for the good of someone else's artistic pursuit. And one of my first jobs I ever had, I was chatting with the lead in the costume shop. This was at the Seattle Opera. And he said, look around this room. See, there's at the time there were about 40 people employed in this space, all of whom were very talented seamstresses, dressmakers, tailors, craftspeople. And he said, there's 40 of us here, and only one of them is the designer. But 40 of these other people have full-time work, earning an hourly wage, bringing this thing to light, bringing this production to light. They might not be the visionary behind the production, but they're all integral in making this happen. And so in terms of making a living, that was so helpful for me to see and realize that what a person does to earn a living might not be the very thing that they want to be doing as an artist, or it might not be the central cornerstone of their creative life, but that there are other ways to offer your skills to creativity at large, to other projects that can then help the other parts of your life flow, by way of, making sure your rent is paid and the lights are on and there's food in the fridge and all of those things.
Well said. And I remember there was a moment of a project that you were assigned to dress a symphony orchestra.
Yeah, so that was several years ago. At the time, my menswear label was creating a range of accessories for men. That I was doing a lot of hand-dyed silks as neckties or ascots and scarves, pocket squares, sort of dressier hand-dyed accessories for men's wardrobes. And the Seattle Symphony saw what I was doing, and they reached out to me because they were traveling to New York for performances at Carnegie Hall as part of a spring music festival. And the composer they were collaborating with had a new piece that he was premiering called titled Become Ocean. And so they had this idea of, they were presenting this music that was all about water and the ocean, and they wanted to dress the symphony in a way that sort of helped evoke that. So they asked to collaborate with me. So I created hand-dyed silk accessories for the entire symphony orchestra. I think it was 101 musicians to wear on stage at Carnegie Hall, and they were all in shades of blues and greens that sort of variegated across the stage, so that while they played, there was this sense of sort of sea green and blue moving across the stage while they perform that piece.
Oh, I love the description of that visual that was added to the sound of the music, which reminds me, do you think that there is a greater tendency for men to have permission to be more flamboyant in our culture?
To me, it feels like a pendulum that swings back and forth every several years. But I really do think that we are in a moment now more so than ever where truly anyone can wear anything they want. And it's all about that self, that little extra fearlessness or that level of self-knowing or bravery and bringing that to the table. I think it's perhaps more noticeable and more extreme with men's fashion and men's style because it was so limited for so long. So you think about how men dressed in the 1950s, for instance, and it was like you had gray, brown, or blue, and that was that was kind of it. And
And the biggest
but
accessory was whatever tie you picked out.
right, exactly. And today, I really feel like that has crumbled away, and that there's so much more variety. And also, it's a real gift of the global society that we're living in now, where anyone, you or I could hop on the internet right now and buy something from a designer in Africa, or we could buy something from, uh, sort of the urban style movements of Tokyo. Or so we have access to style and clothes in a way that we didn't used to also. And I think that's really had an amazing impact on how people dress.
Fashion is a silent language, and it's artistic. It tells us something about the person. They are telling a story by the way they dress.
Oh, absolutely. Whether we realize we're doing it or not, right? It's something I think about all the time when I'm out on the street. I think every single person that I see, whether consciously or unconsciously, made a choice about how they're presenting themselves to the world that day. And I think it becomes so much more satisfying and so much more meaningful when you choose to really get conscious about it and use your own personal style as a way of showing the world who you are, like literally wearing it on your sleeve so that you can be your most authentic self. I have a friend who always says that she tries to make her insides match her outsides. That who she is outside, she wants it to match who she is, what she feels on the inside. And I think that that's such a great motivator and guide for how we can think about how we dress.
I think of it as to be brave and have fun. And it might demonstrate our mood for the day. Like some days we might feel blue, and so therefore we go into our wardrobe and we pick out blue.
Hmm.
Or maybe some days we feel we can actually wear red. It's a wonderful exercise for me each morning to figure out, well, what am I in the mood for? I know that when you do your performance with your music, you not only do the music, which is wonderful and what you're doing there, but the whole band is also a visual treat. Can you describe how you approach the visuals as well as the soundscapes that you're making?
Sure. It's sort of the blessing, I guess, blessing, and I won't call it a curse, but it can be a challenge too of being both a clothing designer and a musician. Those being my two main bags that uh, I'm juggling them both at the same time. So while the music itself is first and foremost, then the next question I ask myself is, okay, what does this music look like? What does it look like? And how do I, if this is the music I'm singing and performing, what do I wear? And if as a designer I can have total control over that. So what do I wear? And then what does my band wear? And what is this? How do I dress the stage? And not just the band, but how is the stage dressed? And this is sort of the magic of theater, right? It's a totally inclusive and fully immersive experience at its best, where the audience is stepping into this whole world that has been visually and sonically created to tell the story of the art that's being made. I love that play between all of those elements.
I love it that you love it because then we get to enjoy it. Michael, I just want to thank you so much for being part of the New Dimensions Cafe today.
Entirely my pleasure. This is such a treat to be here with you, Justine, and I just love everything you do. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I've been speaking with Michael Cepress, a multidisciplinary artist celebrated for his dynamic creativity in a variety of creative arts. And if you want to know more about his work, you can go to his website, michaelcepress.com, and he spells his last name Cepress, michaelcepress.com. Or you can get there through the New Dimensions website, newdimensions.org, where you'll find more than 2,000 programs in our archive. I'm Justine Willis Toms. I want to thank you for joining us at the New Dimensions Cafe, and I invite you, please do join us again.